What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing this week? I'm here traveling to Sterling, Virginia for the last event of the first swing of the PBA 50 tour here in the early stages for the first 5 tournaments. So I stopped here at this rest stop here in Virginia. We have beautiful weather out. I was going to stop earlier, but it looked like it was going to rain. But now it's beautiful, like 74 degrees. It's nice and warm. Well, I should say it's nice and cool. No humidity like there is in Florida. So I figured it was time to recap how my last event went in, where were we? Oh, we were in Moorsville, North Carolina. How did practice session go? Well, we started, as usual, I brought in 12 bowling balls to see which ones would work. We were bowling on Mike Albee, 39 feet. I did bowl on this in Spartanburg earlier in the year. Big differences between then and now. They use a Kegel machine and we are using the Brunswick machine. The temperature outside is a whole lot nicer. In Spartanburg in February, it was 30 degrees outside. It was freaking cold. And there was frost on my windows when I woke up. Not used to that, man, from this Florida boy. Compared to this weekend, well, this past week event in Mooresville, the temperature was right around, it wasn't as cold. I shouldn't say that as cold. For a Florida guy, it was kind of cold. It was like 60 degrees for the first couple days, and then it heated up to about 70, low 70s after that. Usually when, different times of the year, the temperature will come into play on how the lanes play. During the first oil of practice, they oil for the whole house through the first time. How did my ball reaction look? Well, I bowled on 17 and 18. Lane 17 played pretty straight. Lane 18 was hooking. So from playing on 39 feet, I wanted to play out in the track area to see how that worked, to see which bowling balls worked out there. So at the beginning of practice, my pin down reality kind of worked. The stronger stuff like proton physics, dark code, they were just too early. The reaction didn't look very good. I did throw the UC2 for a little while, and towards about an hour into practice, that looked really good. The IQ Tour Solo was going a little too long, but for the most part, a lot of us bowled on lane 18 because it was a pretty easy lane for ball reaction, so we bowled on that a lot. Where lane 17, people didn't throw as many shots over there. So that lane pretty much for our practice transitioned really nice. Too bad the whole tournament wasn't like that. Then after about an hour and a half of practice, they re-oiled half of the house, and that was on the higher end this time, 21 through 40. Birds were flying, caught my attention. So then I waited for the re-oil, and then I went down there to see what balls would react on the re-oil. And after the re-oil, the gem looked pretty good. I had a really good reaction with the gem. And then the UC2 rolled pretty good, but after the re-oil, they seemed to hook a little bit earlier. So, that's the way it looked during practice. All right, on to the first day of qualifying. I had A squad this week. One thing to notice that I did notice that as they do re-oil, the lanes do the pattern becomes truer, so the balls do want to start hooking earlier and earlier. Well, this week when they had 2 pro-ams, and instead of using a house shot, they used the pattern for both squads. Lane 11 and 12. From 11 to 12 to 40, all those lanes got re-oiled 2 more times compared to 1 through 10, where they only got oiled once in the morning for the first re-oil, since they did the higher end of the house. So as I noticed that, I wanted to take that into consideration going into A squad, how the balls were going to react as we went to the higher end of the house. And I was starting on 5 and 6 this week. As we started practice for A squad, which balls worked during my 15 minutes of practice. The proton looked pretty good, which it didn't look good the day before in practice. My reality was just going too long. Since it's kind of like a pin down, it really needs a lot of friction down lane in order for it to get to the pocket like you did at the Villages. So it wasn't rolling as well as I would like. I decided to start with the proton. For the first 3 games, a lot of it was, I had a good ball reaction, but a lot of it was me. Couldn't repeat as well as I would like to. I was trying too hard. Again, another week, you're putting a lot of pressure on myself. I know with the scores the way they've been for the first 3 tournaments are kind of high. So my goal for the squad me walking some dogs, and the dogs are paying attention to me. It's pretty cool. So where was I? The first 3 games, the reaction was good. I was just trying to execute, the best shots I could make instead of just paying attention and rolling the ball. So I was trying a little too hard. But then we got it, and I noticed that my crossing, I really didn't want to bowl on 17 and 18 because the way they were in practice. And sure enough, by game 4, we were bowling on 17 and 18. So I was a little worried about that. So I was trucking along. Can't remember. It's been a couple days, so I don't remember my scores. By game 4, I got it on the 17 and 18. And sure enough, the left lane was really tight, and the right lane was, it rolled, my ball rolled pretty good on the right lane. So I was pretty confident on the right lane. So I had to make sure on the left lane, I made good shots, and I played a little straighter. And for the 16 games, that was the best pair. It turned out to be the best pair for me for the whole tournament. I started, I played a little straighter on the left lane. Started with the front 9 and another chance to shoot, an opportunity to shoot 300 again like I did in the Villages. I got up in the 10th after the front 9, and I threw a good shot, probably the best shot of the 5 on the left lane, and the ball just did not read the back lane. Maybe it started just a little too early, and it hit the pocket, but the 4-pin just didn't have any energy behind it. It kind of just laid in the gutter. I was very upset. I made a really good shot. And I shot 270, 278 that game. So I was 100 over after 4, making a trek that was doing pretty good. And for the next 4 games, I went minus 30 for the next 4 games. Just every lane was different this tournament, every lane. And for the first three tournaments, they weren't like that. From pair to pair, the 2 lanes were similar. One might have been a little tighter, one might have been hooked a little early, but not as drastic as it was this week. From lane to lane, it was different. And as we were moving right to the higher section of the higher, numbered lanes, the balls were starting to hook a little earlier and maybe not read as well down lane. So we were just hunting for a good ball reaction each time, changing balls. So game 5 I managed, game 6 I managed, and then game 7. The balls hooked earlier, so I changed to the UC2, and after the first frames where I was trying to find it, I changed the UC2 because the pair was hooking earlier, and that was the right ball change. I ended up shooting 220 that game. Or no, I shot 220, could have shot 250. I opened in the 10th, 210 on the right lane. I threw it a little too hard. Now the dog there, people are walking their dog back, so I'm gonna take a second here. So I managed that 7th game, split in the 10th frame, and shot 220, got myself up to 100 again, 100 over after a couple, sub 200 games. Going into the last game, I'm like, all right, they're hooking a little bit more down at this higher end. We bowled on 37, 38, and the fronts were tighter than the pair before, and I was hunting for ball reaction again. Couldn't figure out which ball to use. Tried like three different bowling balls, and my fill ball in the 10th frame, game 8, I tried to zen, and that was the best ball reaction. So, like I said, out here I just gotta keep an open mind, gotta really pay attention and focus, and just try to make better shots and make better decisions. So I finished my day 1 at plus 77. I was 18th on the A squad, and I was just hoping that the scores on the next squad were going to be right around the same. It looks like the scores weren't as high as the weeks before, but we just had to see how the tournament played out. So after I was done with A squad, I went and had some lunch, relaxed at the hotel. Then I decided to, of course, not decided. And then later in the day, I came back and tried to watch some B squad to see if I could learn anything or see how the scores were going. And the scores were higher than our squad. The squad equality of types of bowlers on A to B, B had a little stronger field setup than the A squad did, so their scores were a little bit higher than ours. After they bowled their 8 games, the cut for 38th place ended up being at plus 95. So going into the next day, they were going to come back and bowl in the morning, then we would bowl in the afternoon. I knew going in, just like the previous videos before, plus 95, you double that. That is going to be right around 200 over. So I needed a big block. I needed 140, 150 over, which is what I could do. I did it the tournament before that in Aberdeen. So I was just trying to take my focus on coming in, have the same type of game plan, Knew they were going to probably hook a little bit more, put a little more surface on the bowling balls because they tend to shine up a little quicker out here than they do back home in league. And just be prepared to throw good shots and strike. I came in the next day, raring to go. I was going to try, my plan was to try to proton again the first few games. Maybe if they were hooking a little earlier, maybe the Zen Limit look good, or the UC2. And through practice, my 15 minutes of practice, I had to actually move farther in. The first day I started around 7-8 at the arrows. This time I had to move into 11-12 at the arrows because they were hooking a lot earlier. There was a little bit more oil on the inside. And just hopefully put together a good block. So right out of the gate, I got going pretty good. Shot 220. Second game, I noticed the guys in front of us, that some of them were throwing urethane, so I knew that pair was going to be a little bit tighter down lane. So I tightened up my lines a little bit, and I shot 240, and then we had to go down to the low end, and we bowled on 1 and 2. Because of those first 10 lanes, they only got oiled, 1, 2, 3, 4. This was the 5th oil compared to the lanes we were on. We're on the 7th re-oil. They just played totally different. They were tighter in the front, and the mids hooked a little bit, and then down lane, the ball just was, I had like a little bit of overreaction, so I had a little more wet dry on that pair, and I missed my first spare of the tournament. Later on in the 9th frame, I was trying to throw a good shot to shoot decent 200 game, left the 3, 6, 9, 10. I ended up chopping that, so a little more, now I was getting frustrated because I was going, that gave some pins to the field that game. I shot 181, let out a little bit of frustration. So then we go to the next pair, and that pair was like game 7 the next day. That pair hooked earlier. So I was fighting ball reaction again, trying to figure out what ball to use, and I'm shooting like I think I shot 150 that game. So now I was really mad. Again, I just can't seem to put together 2 squads. I find that one pair out of the 8 games, that's just I can't figure it out. I don't shoot a high enough game. I don't manage well enough. By that time, I knew trying to cash was gonna be hard. You had to get to like at least 200 something over. They were projecting it was like 213 with 4 to go, and it was 2. But then towards the end, it was around 205 to actually cash and make it to the next round. So my game plan for the last 4 games was I was gonna go in there and learn, take each lane by lane, try to figure out what ball would react the best. So the end of the 5th game, I moved farther right, trying to swing it out to about 2-3 down lane, and I had a good ball reaction at the end of that game. Moving the next pair, and the fronts were tighter. So I balled up to the Zen, still tried to play that same thing. So I stand like 13-14 throw it 13-14 at the arrows, throw it out to about 5. That's not really my A game, having that much angle to my break point. But that I was just trying to learn. Managed a couple games, and then the last game, 8th game, I pulled out the IQ Tour Solid, moved in about 15-16 at the arrows, kind of little looping it, like 15 to 10, and that worked for I had through the first 4, got comfortable, and ended up opening the 10th frame that game for 240. So I ended on a good note, and that was my learning. I had to finish the tournament at 123 over, not bad, not good. Didn't cash again, but like I said, I felt really good about going and attacking the pattern, trying to learn, and just taking a little pressure off myself, and just trying to learn. All right, so the next day was during the advantages round. I know I didn't make it, so I went back to the bowl and to try and figure out, find people that threw similar to me. I had a couple guys that play the lane similar to the way that I do, so I wanted to go and see how what their ball reaction was, what bowling balls they were using. Try to see if by next time we bowl on this pattern later on, down the road, what balls maybe I can add to my arsenal that maybe help. So I was watching Brad Angel a little bit. He was throwing a show off, really can't get that ball anymore. And he was throwing the Honey Badger Intensity. I can't get that ball anymore either. Those are 2 discontinued products. I was watching Stoney. I watched Stoney in his match, and he was throwing a Trend 2. I do have one of those. Probably should have brought that in the second day. But like I said, that's all learning. I will next time. And that was it. That's what I got out of it. Watching it, then it was time for me to. I checked out of my hotel, and it was time for me to go head out take a couple days and relax and figure out what I was going to do for the next tournament. Yesterday on my off day, I just relaxed, basically vegged. I didn't do anything strenuous. I kind of went for a walk, but I really just wanted to relax and veg and not think about anything, not put pressure on myself and what's going on, you know, coming out here, trying to bowl and do well, and just take a real day off, you know, just recuperate. Part of my recuperation was I subscribed to Bowl TV and I went and watched the top 5 of the tournament to see if I could learn anything else. There was 2 lefties, Stoney Baker made it, Brad Angelo made it, those, and you know, on Omletto, so there was 3 righties. I don't really throw it like Omletto, so I really want to watch the other 2 to see how either how they played the lanes, or maybe what bowling balls they were using after those, you know, next few re-oils. So I watched and I saw Stoney was using the Trend, another discontinued ball that we can't get anymore. And then I watched Brad Angelo, he threw the Honey Badger Intense. So going and looking and researching, you know, that ball, the Honey Badger, the closest thing we have to it is a Rubicon. And I have I have the UC2. So using that, you know, that ball this week was the right strength of bowling ball, but unfortunately it wasn't the right cover. I need, you know, that's Pearl, and I really need a solid. And the only other closest thing to that, it maybe a phase 2. So I probably should have tried a phase 2, but I didn't. But I will, you know, next time, and maybe just see if I can find along the way, either find a Rubicon or find the Honey Badger Intensity, and see if I can find one. Maybe put that in there. All right. Other than that's my recap for this week from the Moorsville Open at Victory Lanes, which is a beautiful bowling. All right, so I'm gonna wrap this thing up. Again, thanks for everybody for all your support on social media outlets: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I really appreciate it. It's been great to have people, you know, rooting me on, and that way I can try to do the best I can out here. Glad to have a fan base. So I'm gonna pack this thing up, get in my car, and finish the drive to Sterling, Virginia for the Bud Moore Classic. Again, thank you. Peace out.